Good morning. How are you? Doing great. Thanks. Hi. Um,
Are you guarding that place?
well, I got four.
Oh my.
If you'd like to join me now, you're more than welcome.
Regulars?
That's right. Oh,
Okay.
okay. Julie.
I'm not joining. Say shoo, shoo, shoo.
We've been standing around with nobody here, and look, they just all show up.
Well, I know. They show up.
And they're
Hello there. I'm well. Good to meet you, Spencer Brown. Stanley, so nice to meet you.
It still is morning, right? I don't want to interrupt your conversations around the table, but I am. We want to get going. We are excited.
12:40.
And we're glad that you can be here. And I hope that we have a few online that are tuned in for live streaming. That has been working well for us. We have at least 2 or 3 regulars on that. And we're so glad. That's one good thing that came out of COVID was live streaming. And we went from 0 to 60 in our live streaming capabilities very quickly. And that has been a real positive thing for us. And I know that we did well with Zoom, but is there anybody that wants to go back to Zoom? But we need a Zoom reunion again for some of those folks that aren't able to get out. That was fun when we did that. So we'll figure that one out. But welcome. I'm glad that you're with us today here. And I'm 99% sure that Carrie Davison is watching. So everybody say hi, Carrie. And there's a possibility that my brother is watching. So hi, Jim. And I don't know. I haven't seen the tally of who's logged in. And maybe the McCorkindales, because they had called and said they were coming, but I don't see them. So maybe the McCorkindales and possibly the McClearys. Those are the ones off the top of my head that are normally live streaming. So welcome to all of you at home and for everyone who's here. On your table, there is the April handout. Can you believe that next Friday is April 1st? Can you believe it? And we will be doing our full slate of Fiesta activities. We'll have reception early on. King and so I'm making sure I get my times right. If we can start here around 10:30, as you start gathering, there'll be Murillo will be having his normal spread of Fiesta snacks, and that will start at 10:30. The mariachis will join us at 11, and this is the same group that we had last year. It is I think it's the only all-women group of mariachis, and they were incredible. So you don't want to miss that. And then King Antonio will be here around 11:30, and we'll spend as much time as we can with him, and then we'll come in here and have lunch, and we'll celebrate April birthdays next Friday. And so I hope that if you haven't signed up, make sure that you sign up today or call the office. So, and maybe we could set up some cots and you can take a nap, and because I know someone who used to do that. And I have a couch in my office that is welcome for anyone who wants to use it. But yes, please do support that concert for the choir. Thank you, Nancy. On April 22nd, there's a number of things in between the 1st and the 22nd. We've got the Battle of Flowers, and then we've got Good Friday. And so we won't meet until the 22nd, and that will be a Philly cheesesteak and a movie. Murillo and I have been talking about that since I moved here, and he's assured me that he can make a Philly cheesesteak. I'm just not sure what movie it will be. I'm bouncing between the Rocky movies. We could do a Rocky marathon, I'm not sure that Rocky is something that we would all enjoy together. National Treasure, the first one, takes place in Philadelphia, a lot of it. And then there's a I think it's called Invincible. There was a when I can't think of his name. I should know this Philadelphia football history, but there was a time when local football teams from the establishments in Philadelphia were invited to try out for the Philadelphia Eagles, and one of the local guys actually made it. It's a good movie, but if you have any suggestions about a Philadelphia themed movie, let me know and we'll figure that one out before the 22nd. And then on the 29th, we'll hear from Lauren Prescott, who canceled or had to reschedule. She was scheduled, I think, in February, and we've rescheduled her for the 29th. So we are continually going forward with our Keys program, and we're kind of holding our own around 20 to 25 at most things. We had 25 people for lunch last week. The Comfort Cafe was a great time. Okay, I think that's all the announcements that I need to make. We're glad that you're here. We are excited to hear from Spencer Brown. I have been connecting with him via email and on the phone, and we actually sat down and talked together a little bit. He works with accountable aging. Now, none of us qualify for that here, or none of us are aging. At least we don't want to think so. But he is a cheerleader for older adults and has connections to a lot of resources that are available. And we're happy to have Spencer, you with us. Come and join us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you. This is the first time I've spoken to a group where I had a microphone attached to me that I'm not sure is there or not, so I gave it a whirl. So thanks for being here. I appreciate the invitation, and I will just make a disclaimer that I am a longtime member at First Baptist Church, San Antonio, just a couple of blocks away. And also, in the course of my living in San Antonio, reconnected with your senior pastor. He and I grew up in the same home church in Columbia, South Carolina. His father was a Sunday school teacher when I was a teenager. He taught, I think, every age group in that church, Eastminster Presbyterian Church in Columbia, South Carolina. So Bob and I have connected as well. And so I'm, yes, and my background is in the field of aging, predominantly working in communities for typically older adults. As a gerontologist, I tell people I'm not sure what old is. It's really a relative term, so I don't really know what that looks like. But I worked at Morningside Ministries for a portion of my career, and First Presbyterian Church has been an integral part of that nonprofit faith-based organization. So that is a little bit about me. And I'm here to have a conversation. And I hope that while you can hear me really well with this audio system, I want to allow time before we have lunch at noon for you to raise a hand, ask a question. I'm going to purposely pause and make this as much of a conversation as possible as a lecture, but don't feel uncomfortable at all. So I work with a company, as Joe said, called Accountable Aging Care Management. And typically, our clientele, if they are 60 or 70 or 80 or anywhere in between or above, it is oftentimes the adult children, people in my age bracket, who find themselves dealing with raising questions that they're not used to asking as a son or a daughter. They find themselves dealing with things such as medical conditions that get more complicated over time, doctor's appointments, transitions from leaving a home of maybe 50 years and maybe moving into a more supportive environment, maybe bringing help into the home, all kinds of things like that. So I will tell you, I agree with you from what Joe said. You are not in the aging bracket that we're talking about. Some of your children, some people near you, some people near me may think otherwise, right? We have people in our lives that have opinions, but so I'm grateful to be here. And so I want to just lead a discussion about some things that I, as a professional, aging life care professional with a degree in gerontology, some of the things that we encounter with families that we work with. And I want you to be able to give me some nonverbal feedback if this resonates with you. And I also am going to ask specifically for any experiences or questions, because this is your time. I want you to get out of this what you want to get out of this. So we're going to talk a little bit about just some common issues in aging. And for a group like this and a group like myself, we all want to age well. We all want to do things proactively to take care of ourselves. Diet and exercise, people tell us, eat right, exercise right, stay connected socially with your networks, challenge your brain, stay active. We hear a lot of things that are not only good for your heart, but good for your brain and good for all of your body. So some of the areas that we touch on as a company, and you'll notice I tried not to really just pummel you with propaganda. We are not a sales organization, but in that little trifold at your table, there is a visual in there that covers some areas, and I'm just going to just touch on some of those things that we see. In terms of all of us aging, family is very important. Not all of us have multiple children. Not all of us have children that live nearby. Not all of us have functional families. Not all of us, I mean, we all have different situations. But when people are growing up, which I think we're all doing the process of doing, we're all growing up still, family is a very important factor. In terms of family roles, some people are naturally inclined to step up and be supportive when it comes to helping make financial decisions or give some opinions or coaching about dealing with a medical issue or concerns for safety. You know, it's not just always the firstborn is always the one that has the authority or the interest or the desire to be involved. But it's important to look at the family. And what I want to encourage us all to do is think about as we age, as we grow up, is the team that we decide to have around us. We can have choices of the team, our medical team, our legal team. We have the children we have and the parents we have, and there's some things we just have to just accept. But we do have some choices. And I want to encourage us to think about family members. We deal with a lot of nieces and nephews and cousins and people that step up who happen to be the ones that an older adult, I don't know if a chronologically gifted, mature adult, any adult, really, may decide, while I have my blood-born children, I think my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law, I think I would have more trust having them be part of my team and be my representative if I could no longer make certain decisions for myself. So family is important. There's medical things. Medical issues are important. And I know there are statistics, and discussions about an older population typically takes more medications than younger people, has more doctor's appointments, uses more Medicare spending, and I'm not here to argue about that at all. There are some realities, though. There are more medical issues. There may be more than just the primary care doctor. There may be a cardiologist or a kidney specialist that they're part of the team. So we are involved with the medical community, and the medical community is important if it's set up right and you have a doctor that treats you with dignity and can explain it to you or dumb it down so you understand what all the talk means. There's some things that we recommend clients and families that we work with do is keep current medication lists to even include the prescribing doctors, the reason the medication is being prescribed. There's some things we can be proactive about in terms of our medical care. A lot of people are very proactive in coming up with almost an emergency packet. Either it could be in a simple folder or sheet or two that has the basic demographics, your name, rank, and serial number, for example, insurance information, maybe allergies and things like that, next of kin. It may just be like a cheat sheet that if you had to depart from your home and it was on the refrigerator, if you have someone living with you, and I realize a lot of people live alone, but a lot of people have a spouse, that can go with you. But preparing documents so that you're not scrambling at the last minute to provide someone in the emergency room at the hospital. Now who is your medical attorney? Do you have a current med list? They just bombard you with questions. Anything we can do to be prepared when there's not a crisis, we encourage from a medical standpoint. The packet is important, can be important to some. What we see a lot of times as we grow up in age is our medical care may get a little more robust, not always complicated, but more robust. The communication among the providers, among the doctors, there's a lot of electronic communication, but not every primary care doctor's office has an online way to communicate and send reports to the cardiologist. And so what we see is people having to often repeat the stories, fill in the primary care doctor at that visit. Well, this is what my heart doctor said. I had some therapy just to kind of help me get stronger from that little fall I took. There are silos. There are real silos in the medical system where communication doesn't happen. So we encourage on the medical front people to be sure there's a way, whether you or me or someone on our team is helping with the communication process. That's really, really important. After this next topic, I'm gonna pause for just a second and see if there's a question for you, because you may have come today with I'll say now that therefore I don't recognize that scripture. It's you, but anyway. Not that I was looking to see it myself, but you came here for a reason. You come here maybe every week, and so well, that's okay. It really is not about. It's not about me. I promise. I just. But I'm curious to know what gravitated you toward a topic such as this. But before we do that, another component that we are well aware of, even mindful of, is the financial component. Finances are a huge factor as we age and we grow older, and that doesn't always mean how much income and assets we have, but that has a lot to do with it. But it also has quite a bit to do with what insurance covers. A lot of people over the age of 65 have traditional Medicare with a supplement and have drug coverage, or they've assigned their Medicare to an Advantage plan to take care of all of their needs. But insurance has a role, and people want to understand, if I need more help, if I can't live in my home safely anymore, if I can't, you fill in the blank, what is that going to look like? Are there options that will allow me to stay where I am? Who will pay for that? Will I have to pay for that? What will my insurance pay for? What will the government benefits? What are they? Do they apply to me? So there's a financial component. So when we're thinking about aging, the medical issues that we have and we face have a direct correlation with how those services are covered and paid for. And it's very well correlated to the team that we have assembled, our children, our family, our Sunday school, our Bible study groups, all of our networks. So let me pause for a minute and see, I'll just ask a question, and if one of you or two of you want to speak, And I realize we've had a few people on live stream, and you may not hear what everybody says, but um, and Joe has a microphone. I'm just curious. From what we've talked about so far, is there a particular something that resonates with you, a question in those areas, or if you want to address what do you expect to get out of this conversation? It's 11:30. I'm just curious to get some feedback.
I feel like I have a team of doctors, but they don't know they're the team. So if I see one doctor and some procedure is done, and then I want to share that information with another doctor, physically carrying a report from one to the other usually works. But the other day, my doctor said, I don't know why the physician ordered this procedure. So you need to contact that person to see if there needs to be any follow up. Is there any way of easing that communication? Are there branches in the silo that are working in some incidences that connect these people who are my team, but they don't connect with each other? Not all of them.
That's a very good question. And since I don't have to repeat the question because we all heard it, that is a very common issue, is that there are just some inbred, I would say, natural silos where you may go and you may be the one taking the initiative in informing the doctor of what other things are happening. Sometimes you may find a doctor on your team that will say, I'm going to reach out to the specialist. We're going to do a doctor to doctor thing. And then you got to think about, well, then, okay, after they talk, I'm the patient. How does that get back to me? What did they decide? So it varies based on the situation. The best thing that I can recommend, and we do professionally, is we stay very proactive in following up. For example, on Monday after the weekend, I'm meeting a client. We were hired by this family, and I am attending all of the medical appointments. And they're not a lot, but there's usually one doctor's appointment a month. We're going to the kidney specialist. The client has kidney failure. But she also has blood pressure issues. So she's got a cardiologist, a kidney doctor, and a primary care doctor. And the cardiologist, the one who is, in my opinion, the one driving the bus for the congestive heart failure, the heart rate, the blood pressure, at the last appointment gave me, the third party meeting my client, gave me an order. And he said, when you go see the kidney doctor, ask him about this medication that we're using and we're recommending to increase it. I know it has an effect on the kidneys. I want his opinion before we implement a change of whether we should do that. He didn't say, I'll reach out to the kidney doctor and I'll get back to you. It was okay. So part of this is being nimble and being flexible, and being proactive. So all I can say is, ask questions, try to keep these people accountable, because whether your insurance is paying the doctor or my insurance is paying the doctor, I look at the doctor as my employee, works for me. I don't have to keep this doctor if I'm not, pleased. So all I can say is be proactive, and if you find challenges in keeping up yourself, dialogue with the team.
Physically carry to the other office. So I don't know how much communication there is, but it's the file of this procedure.
You make a good point. When you take copies of lab reports or visit summaries from other doctors and you share that, I find that most doctors will accept that and will applaud you greatly for that. You don't want to have to keep a whole notebook of everything, but you can take some recent results of documents. But anyway, the coordination is a challenge. Anybody else have a thought about what we've talked about, or what motivated you, or what you want to get out of this conversation? So like, Mike's coming to you.
Oh, I thought I was knocking something over. Thank you. On the same topic, we have found that if you, at least with the ones we've worked with, if we ask whoever the other doctor is that's done whatever is new or different, test, whatever, to send a copy of the results to our internist. He is like the center of the team, and he gets, and so far it's worked.
Mhm.
No one has minded sending, even lab work that has been done, ordered by somebody else, mammograms, anything. We have said, I've always, will you please send a copy of this to the internist? So he is the one that's kind of watching for us
Mhm.
and going over, and keeps track of everything and knows what everybody else is doing.
That's a very good tip for us all to learn. I think most of you have experience in situations for yourself or someone you know where that is not the case, or maybe it is the case. And let's face it, when doctors are seeing lots of people throughout the day, they're paid, compensated by the insurance, not to just chit chat. I mean, there are doctors that want to know how your family's doing, and I mean, and we'll talk about those personal things and get to know you as a person, not just as a person with congestive heart failure, with chronic kidney disease, or high blood pressure. But because they're so driven from diagnosis and codes and reimbursement, they want to be efficient so they can be effective and manage their business. So I think that is really important. Anybody else want us? Those are a couple of great comments, and I want us to continue that.
Well, as you're working with clients, there are a number of medical systems in this city, and within the system, there seems to be good connection of reports and follow-ups that a doctor in the system can go to that system and get all that information. But often there's a doctor in another system, and they don't connect very well. In your working with clients, how do you go through that hurdle? Uh, I'm just learning this because my brother moved here with being treated for cancer, and there's the Methodist system and the Baptist system, and he's kind of caught in the UT system, and he's kind of been involved with all three of them, and it gets to be confusing and not very well served. Is there a way that you have found to work all those systems together?
Well, one of our best approaches is when we are brought into a family situation and we're doing a comprehensive assessment to get a holistic viewpoint of what all the issues are, including the medical issues. If there are fragments, I would say, because the UT health system doesn't just automatically transfer to the university health system or the Methodist or Baptist. Knowing who is on that team for that individual, uh, and knowing how to go straight to the source, and if someone's got one outlier physician because of a specialty that really requires them to go outside of this network where reports can't just be pulled up by everybody who needs to know. If we are working with that client and involved with that outlier, I'll just call it that outlier physician, say at the Baptist system, we try to work within the quagmire or the system at the Baptist to get the information we need, since it's not automatically going to just be accessed or shared. Sometimes it means just putting on your pants and going and getting it done. As aging life care professionals or care managers, as third-party specialists in aging, so we do not serve as legal representatives for families. We're not the decision maker. We're a specialist in aging, like lawyers are experts in estate planning and gifting and executing wills, and financial professionals are skilled at preserving assets and saving for retirement. We just we try to help navigate the system and go to the source. A couple of other areas that are really important is the legal component. Uh, Many of you probably have given consideration to your own planning in terms of how you want your assets handled upon your death. You Many of you have probably made decisions about who would you trust to make medical decisions if you could not make them for yourself. If you could no longer handle financial matters and transactions, who you would trust, who the medical powers of attorney, financial powers of attorney, all of that estate planning. That is a very significant component of for all of us as aging. My wife and I met at Baylor University up in Waco, and she went to law school at Baylor. And we had two children, and she was pregnant with our third, who's about to be 19 next month, so he's the youngest of three. And we didn't have a will. And I told my wife, I said, Stephanie, you're a Baylor Law graduate. We started our career in San Antonio. This was in 2003 or 2002, somewhere in that time frame. And I said, shame on us. We have two, 4 to 2-year-old now, and we're about to have a third child. I didn't make her feel bad for not thinking of this, but that was what precipitated us to finally come up with a plan that would provide guardians for our children as minors, how we would dispose of our assets and whatnot. That's important. That can be some really good planning that can save a lot of headache, and especially if it's discussed and shared with the people that you've appointed. My mother, who's in the latter stages of an Alzheimer's disease journey, I remember her clearly many years ago asking my permission if she could name me in her medical power of attorney. Of course, my dad would be the first person, but she asked my permission. She didn't just get it in the document, pay the attorney, and I found out about it later by having to deal with it. She asked permission, and I said, absolutely. Having conversations so people know, will they serve and whatnot. So legal planning is really important, as well as protecting assets. Financial professionals and the legal community work very closely together with these aging issues when it comes to planning for the cost of care, costs of living longer as we live. The average age, I don't know what the average age is anymore, but the 85 plus group and the 100 more centenarians now, we are seeing that population with our baby boomers just growing exponentially. So the financial impact and the healthcare system impact together. So the attorneys and the financial people work together, in other words. And the attorneys can set up some strategies, some instruments through, I'm talking out of my league, can set up the legal instruments like the revocable, irrevocable trust, the charitable trust, different things that can help people with their planning and also with providing for their needs of their own, and then provide the generational transfer of wealth, how great or small that might be. So the legal component is really important to be thinking about. So we interface with those issues as well. Now, I started talking about family a little bit because I think, we're a family of faith. We're part of the body of Christ. We have our nuclear family, however functional or dysfunctional it may be. And then our family just, I think, expands. My professional colleagues are part of my family. There are social and emotional components, staying active, staying engaged. One of the things that we encourage people, and we don't often practice ourselves, is to stay involved doing the things that we enjoy. I'm a volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association, the local chapter, and I give presentations from time to time about what are the 10 warning signs that we should all pay attention to, that something may be different than it used to be. And it could be something as simple as someone just disengaging from that weekly bridge group, from no longer going to their Tuesday morning beauty shop appointment. It could be simple as just that social emotional withdrawal engagement that could be a sign that that person is experiencing some changes maybe that should be addressed to a doctor, talked about, maybe not. So I would say that staying active in what people enjoy, and I believe while our company, our accountable aging, it's a business. I've viewed all of my work in the field of aging as a ministry. I've worked for some faith-based, like Morningside Ministries. I've worked in nonprofit work, and even churches. I've always appreciated pastors and the business people that say, you know what, you know, the church has a financial. I mean, their financials, their expenses and income. I mean, it's Christ-centered. It is also a financial. It is a business. A lot of people, as we grow older, begin to ask questions about what is my purpose now. My wife and I aren't really empty nesters because our oldest son who graduated is living with us right at the moment. So, but we're in that transition where we've got them all out of high school, and we're trying to figure out, okay, we've been married for 28 years now. At the stage where it's just the two of us again, what is that transition going to be like? How are we going to stay physically active? How are we going to stay connected to each other as a couple, as one, our marital vows? When people lose a spouse, when there's a health crisis, I mean, whatever the transition is, I mean, I encourage us all to think about how do we still stay true to what's important to us. It may look a little different. I tell you, my parents, my dad's the caregiver, they're living life to the fullest. But my mom can't get out of bed on her own. She can't dress herself. I mean, but she still enjoys a lot. She's still able to get up in the lift and go down to the dining room. But it looks a lot different. Their network and world has gotten a lot more narrow. But my dad's trying to do things that will focus on what the abilities and what the emotional, intuitive part of our being will allow to do. So let me just pause. I know it's 11:45, and this is really, really helpful. Uh, does anyone have a question or a thought, or maybe you've given some examples of being proactive? Anyone else have a situation that you almost like a case study you'd like to address, or a success that you might share with the group?
I've been very worried about one of my best friends who is starting to forget things, and she's just 1 year younger than me, and she's worried about the fact too that she forgets things, and I'm finding that I say to her, "Oh, I couldn't find my glasses on Thursday. I looked all over for them." And she's, "Oh, it's so good to know somebody else is having the same problems." But she's really having a lot more problems. And then I'm starting to get worried about when I mention I do something like walk in the room and forget what I was going after there. I think, oh no, I'm like she is. But is there a counselor, or is there someplace she can go, or should I talk to her daughter? I mean, it's getting worse and worse. I've seen since the pandemic, and I just worry that she won't be able to live alone anymore because she forgets keys or purse, doesn't lock the door, or things like that.
That's a very good question, and there's lots of ways to address that, and I'll try to do it briefly. And some of you may have an input. Having a conversation, not the conversation. There are lots of conversations that we have as we age. That relationship, not knowing the whole full extent of the dynamics, if you and your friend are that open with each other about things that you're noticing in the other, it may be appropriate. It may make you feel uncomfortable though, to comment on maybe what you've noticed and try to delve a little bit in terms of what's important and how important does she feel it is to pay attention to it, to address it, to seek maybe a more definitive explanation for what's going on. A lot of people are scared when they think something is not right of going to a doctor. They feel they need to get an answer or a counselor. They need to go to somebody for fear that it might really be a problem. But it's also an act of bravery, an act of proactive aging if someone decides, I don't know who to talk to, but I'd like to get some opinion or an evaluation if what I am experiencing is normal. So sometimes people make suggestions. Oh, have you thought about talking about to your doctor? Or if some people do go and they call the child and they say, I just noticed your mom seems to be having more memory issues. We visit. I just want you to know, without feeling as if you're telling that daughter, you've got to come visit and take your mom to the doctor and do this. Because part of this aging well is building trust with people. And parents, I know this because my dad, when he told my sister and me, 3 years after the diagnosis, he waited because my mom didn't want us to know until she felt she was ready, and that moment never came. So he felt he needed to tell us. He was very clear that he wanted to become partners with us and include us, but he was not coming to us for specific advice. He's still the parent. Now, he's asked my opinion and thoughts lots of times, but it's in a context of conversation, not me lecturing him on what to do. So how to have a conversation, how she might respond if you bring that up, or things that you're doing. Sometimes the peer pressure, sometimes it's, oh, I've noticed that, and I've begun to talk to my doctor about some of the part of normal aging changes, and just to make sure that if there is anything that's not part of normal aging, which Alzheimer's disease and dementia as an umbrella term is not part of normal aging, maybe if people share that may say, oh, okay, well, then I can do that too. Maybe you have a relationship with that daughter. So I'm kind of answering that a little bit generically because I don't really know the circumstances, but being able to recognize and to knowing to go to someone is a good step.
I think what I've been involved with over the years in care ministry is families are concerned about each other, but children or even adult children don't want to be the one to come in and say, Mom, you're losing it, because that doesn't help. And there's no one wants to have that conversation. Might be having some information. What I have seen helpful is to employ the doctor, employ the professional to be the one to recommend the hard choices, to recommend that you may need to be doing this to protect yourself better. And in a sense, that opens up the conversation. If I'm going with my dad and I can't say to my dad, you need to stop driving. And I would never want to be involved in that conversation with my father-in-law. And I hope that it doesn't come because that it's hard. And even some folks in Keys over the years I've been here that have decided it's time for them to stop. It's best when they make that decision for themselves, not when their son or daughter comes in and takes and hides the keys. But it helps, I think, to encourage the professional folks to recommend those things, and then you kind of become a comrade in how we're going to deal with this. Instead of driving away from the doctor's office, having an argument because I recommended to the doctor that the doctor recommend that my dad stop driving, something like that. So, but if maybe a conversation with a doctor beforehand and say, look, I need your help in this. Can you encourage my dad? And then that can open up an opportunity to say, well, what do you think about what the doctor said on the way home? Instead of having an argument and being the bad guy. And I think if there's ways of family members being able to utilize professionals to let them be the bad guy and for us to be, to be working on it with them, it can make a whole lot of difference in the family dynamic. So anyway, that's kind of some of my observation, because there's a lot of decisions. None of you want your kids to come into your house and say, we've sold the house and you're going to the forum. That would be very difficult. And so how do you work at that? And my prayer is that everyone will come to that decision on their own and then say, let's find a way to help you get there. But so it's a good guy, bad guy situation at some points.
It is. And the reality is what you described in terms of our profession is not usually how it works. Usually there is a crisis that happens, a hospitalization or a car accident or something, or just an individual that is just not willing or agreeable to either involve a team a little or at all. And sometimes it comes to a crisis. It would be nice if everyone just made those decisions. It would save all of our children a little headache. When I told my children 10 years ago that my wife and I had bought long-term care insurance for ourselves, so they were 9, 8, 10, and 12. I mean, I can't remember how old they were. But I told them, your mom and I have just to keep it simple, we've bought some insurance that really is a gift for the three of you. Because when we get older, there are going to be a certain amount of decisions and things that are going to come and fall squarely in your to-do list. And your mom and I are taking some steps to try to make it easier for you when you pick out a nursing home. I just said, I don't know what I said. It was a long time ago, 10, 11 years ago. But having conversations are important. As a professional consulting firm, I mean, we are a professional consulting firm. We bill by the hour for consultations and coordinating things and being some of the bridge that makes sure that the doctors are communicating, that everybody that needs to know has an understanding. So this good cop, bad cop, we can play the bad cop, and sometimes children will call and want to talk to us or hire us and say, you know what, we could not get my mom to leave out of her house. We want you to make it happen. And we say, well, we're not just going to just barge in. You can pay us all the hourly rate and all the time in the world. We cannot force your mom to move. But there's something also about a third party who can be introduced as an advocate for that person that's not the child saying what to do, that at times allows us to work with that individual through transitions, even if it's an unhealthy transition. I remember telling a client who was in a beautiful garden home who was an alcoholic, who had rammed her car into the community gate not more than once, who passed out in her electric scooter on the elevator, lots of things. And her daughters were they were taking charge. And they were the bad guys. And I remember, and they were moving her from this beautiful home to an assisted living section. And I remember sitting there, I said, this is where I see the train going. I can't make the train turn around. But what I can do is I can walk with you through these transitions. I said, I can't change the situation, but I can be your advocate and support you. And that led from one transition to another, but she, for quite some time, was really mad at her daughters. But she didn't look at me as an agent who was taking control, being aggressive, giving orders. So that really is interesting. It's 11:57. I am going to stay for lunch about 12:30, 12:35-ish. I am going to scoot for an appointment. And I have on your tables, everyone has a pen and a brochure. I think the full table in the back, they're not any more special than the rest of you. They happen to have my actual business card. Everyone else, I say generic. I gave you a company. It's our San Antonio phone number. I've got plenty of business cards if anyone just wants one of my own. But I just want to point out that the table over there, I just ran out of the generic ones. But I have plenty of ones that have my name on it. But this is not about me. This is about how do we as a community, how do we as bodies of faith, I have conversations at my own church at First Baptist with people who come to me and say, can we talk? Can we have conversations like this? So I'm grateful for Keys. I'm grateful for Joe and for Scott Simpson, who was my introduction to your congregation, and then reconnecting with Bob. His dad goes by Bobby. He goes by Bob, right? Your pastor? Okay, see. He and I joked about that when we reconnected. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, gosh, he graduated just a few years ahead of me and remembers my, anyway, just, so I feel a connection, even though I'm not a member of this fine fellowship. So any parting shots or questions, I'll kind of be hanging around. I hope this has been helpful. And whenever I am in front of people, I hope this actually creates more questions. This was a conversation. I hope this just gets you thinking and talking and being willing to have some of the hard conversations. That's my goal. And if I can ever be a resource, I'd be glad to come back or be a resource. So thank you, Joe, and thank you for your hospitality. Okay.
Well, thank you, Spencer, for your time with us. This is something that we have a whole ton of in our attic, and we're trying to get them out. So I feel bad trying to give these and think that this is something I went and shopped special for you. But this was something that was created at our 75th anniversary, and it's a history of our church. We've just gotten past our 175th. And so that's a little bit of information about our church, maybe some things that you will remember. And sometimes and somebody needs to write the new one. Because we're going to run out of these someday and we won't have anything to give to our speakers.
Well, I will say this does mean more than you might realize. First Baptist Church was founded, I think, in 1861, 1846. So First Pres was here first. I remember our sesquicentennial, the 150th, and now I think we're 161. No, the last year was 160. 2021 was 160 for us. They came up with something like this, and they have done 2 or 3 additions to bring us up through a few years. And my college church, which was another Baptist church, my wife says she converted me. I grew up in the Presbyterian church with Bob Fuller. I told you that. But I have historical, something like this for the Baptist church in Waco, Texas, where my grandparents, church history, family history, and capturing it, it's meaningful. So,
well, thank you.
I feel as if it's an honor, and I'll be sitting here, and then when I just slip out, I'll just slip out. But Joe knows how to reach me.
Sure.
And I'm just real grateful to be here with you and serving together.
Thank you so much. Let me pray, and then we'll have lunch together. Father, thank you for this time. Pray that you would touch our hearts in the season that we're in. I pray that in this group, if there are needs in this area of trying to figure out what to do next, that you would challenge us to reach out and ask for help. Pray that there are healthy families here that are working together for that. But when those systems need a little bit of help, give us the courage to reach out and ask for help. Thank you for this time. Thank you for the meal that we will share together. Ask your blessing on those who prepared it, those who will serve it. Use it to nourish and bless our bodies and give us a good time of fellowship around these tables. And we're thankful for this time that we are able to spend together. In Jesus' name, amen.